Welcome back to Jordan at a Time, my 199 at a time hardcore Ironman. Last episode I got the mining skill cape, did some quests, and started a long grind making plant pots to get to 99 crafting. Today I start off by finally using up the last of the soft clay I bought 3 weeks ago, which means I averaged a bit over 3,100 clay a day. It was not fun. 67,000 clay. 4 weeks. And that's where I am. I don't want to do this again. If I really hated myself and spent the rest of my Stardust on soft clay, I'd be doing this for another 10 weeks and probably get close to level 98. However, I don't think I could spend another 10 weeks averaging just 10,000 experience an hour. But unfortunately, there really aren't many options for training crafting when the only other skill you have access to is mining. Before we talk about the grind moving forward, let's buy out the stock of the gem bags multiple times from Dozori's shop. Then we get to cutting the gems, and finally see a decent XP an hour. This is the first XP an hour this account has seen which is above 30,000 experience an hour. So, future levels. Whilst a few thousand gems is a lot, it only gets me to level 88. I'm still going to need to get 4 more levels, and then do that entire grind all over again. So, what are my limited options? All jewellery is out of the question, as I don't have access to gold bars for gold jewellery or jade and red topaz for silver jewellery. So all the gems I've just bought won't get to give the maximum amount of XP possible. I could spin flax, but the XP rates there are about as miserable as pottery, and all of the better spinning options require materials that I don't have access to. All armour is off the table as I have no way to get leather, dragon hide, snake skin, or anything else really. But my silver lining is molten glass. As I showed off in the last episode, I started to slowly accumulate molten glass, or the supplies for it. And I spent a few hours the other day buying seaweed at Porksard, banking and hopping worlds. Then even more time running between Yanil Bank and the sand pit to collect sand. The latter is something I wish to avoid having to do too much more of though, as it was extremely slow. There was one other method I explored last week, as I went in search of other ways to get crafting experience. I remembered there's something which gives secondary crafting experience, however, I didn't really know what the rates were. So, I started by heading to Lumbridge, and spoke with Veos to start X marks the spot. After turning off the clue solver plugin and finishing the first step. After doing that, I followed the clue step which Veos gave until I'd finally found his chest and took it back to him. But before handing it in, I remembered I had a beginner clue scroll still in the bank, so I finished that first so the quest could reward me with one more. From there, I boarded the boat to Corrend and went up to RKS. I then continued walking past everyone to the dense Essence veins. I started mining, and the crafting overlay started to show the crafting XP an hour increasing. It hit 1k an hour. We're going good. 2k an hour, yes. Keep climbing. 3k, this may solve all my issues. 4k, we're matching the XP rates for the cups with pottery. 4k, come on. 4k an hour. That's it. That's my lot. I can't complain. It's not meant to be a crafting training method, but it is a shame that it didn't go any higher. This just means I'm going to have to rethink this 99. We're going to get to 88 crafting with the gems I bought, and then if we glass blow light orbs, it would be around 100,000 molten glass being made, and the light orbs being blown, to get to 99. This isn't impossible, but the cost may well be. To get the 100,000 molten glass, I would still need to buy about 90,000 more seaweed, which will cost around about 400,000. This cost isn't too far out of the realms of possibility with what I have available to me, as I can make that in a few hours mining in the Motherlode mine and selling my ores to Hendor with a bit of world hopping. But the issue is the sand. I'd also need to get my hand on around about 95,000 buckets of sand. And I'd much rather walk out into the ocean to never return than run between Yanil Bank and the sandbox on the other side of town over 3,000 times. Each inventory of sand in Yanil takes over 1.5 minutes to get, which would mean I'd spend over 80 hours collecting the sand. It's not impossible, but it's certainly not something I'd like to do if I can avoid it. So what are my alternatives? I have two, surprisingly. The first one is getting the sand on Entrana. This is only about 5 to 10 seconds quicker per inventory, but in gathering 95,000 buckets, it ends up saving between 8 and 9 hours from the total grind. It's still a painful grind exceeding 70 hours just to collect the sand, let alone cook it and blow it, but at least it's free. My other option is almost as painful, but for the reason of cost. I could get sand buckets using the sandstone crusher in the desert. The only problem here is it's going to be 95,000 buckets of sand, and it will cost me 4.75 million GP. That is a lot of money to try and find, and the more I think about it, the more it's my best option, despite me never having used that piece of content before. As the only alternative I would have would be buying the sand from charter ships, which will still be the same cost. But I don't necessarily have to go glass blowing only. I could also do gems. By the end of this video, I will have cut all of the gems that I bought, but there's nothing stopping me buying more. I just need to spend more time mining stars, which is something I can do now that I don't have an extremely slow crafting method on my hand. But this is all a hurdle for the next episode. For now, we should talk about what's been on my mind for the past 2 weeks. What skill will come next? Despite me having at least another 2 weeks of the crafting grind before I can realistically start the next skill, knowing what I'll be doing next will allow me the chance to plan out what I would do and make sure it's viable to train. If I had spent more time looking into crafting, I probably wouldn't have chosen this as my second skill, due to how few training methods are available with the current skills unlocked. Agility is an obvious choice. My run energy will be much less of an issue, and I will gain access to many shortcuts across the map. However, I'm not sure how much it adds to the account. Woodcutting would lead to unlocking more skills, and would put me one step closer to being able to do Winter Todd for a variety of supplies. Hunter would give access to Purupuro, and a whole host of upgrades and options from there. Thieving would give me the cash stack I need for a lot of other skills, and really could have done with now. And fishing, followed by cooking, would give me the food that I would need to start doing combat training. There really is a lot of choice about what to do next, and I'm still quite on the fence about what exactly the next step should be. After the slight misplay of crafting though, I don't think there's many choices which could be much worse, other than maybe construction. But hopefully, in the next episode, I'll finish off the crafting grind and figure out what the next step will be, or at the very least, be well on my way to being done with this awful grind. And that's really all there is to talk about today. Pretty boring, I know, but that's the crafting life. Thanks for sticking around to the end. If you have any suggestions for content going forwards, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye.